One Monday morning, little Miss Bossy went for a walk, and she met Mr. Chatterbox. Oh, good morning, Miss Bossy. What a nice sunny day it is today. Although not as quite as nice as it was yesterday, but yesterday wasn't quite as good as last weekend. But then I don't do very much on weekends, except, of course, this weekend, which, as you know, is my birthday, and that's why I'm off to the village this morning to make sure everyone is coming to my birthday party. Where are you going today?
Mind your own business.
On Tuesday, she met Mr. Noisy. He was in his garden singing. Noisily, of course.
Oh, sole mio. Oh,
Shut up! Stop that frightful noise! Shut up!
On Wednesday, little Miss Bossy met Miss Sunshine. She was smiling as usual.
Oh, what a beautiful hat you're wearing today, Miss Bossy. Is it a new one? It does suit you.
She smiled a huge smile.
Shut up! Take that stupid smile off your face, you silly girl.
As you can imagine, little Miss Bossy wasn't very popular. Now, little did Miss Bossy realise, but somebody had seen her bossing Mr. Chatterbox about. And that same somebody had seen her bossing Mr. Noisy about. And that self-same somebody had seen her bossing Miss Sunshine about. And that self-same somebody was the wizard. He walked home, thinking, yes, something really ought to be done about Miss Bossy. When he arrived home, he went straight to his library and took down a large red book from a bookshelf. It was rather dusty, as it hadn't been read for some time. Let's see now. Yes. Now, where's that spell I need? He turned to page 304. At the top of the page, it said, How to Stop People Being Bossy. How to stop people being bossy. Yes, that's it. The wizard read the page very carefully. The day after, which was Thursday, little Miss Bossy met someone who was fast asleep as usual. Yes, Mr. Lazy.
Wake up! Come along! Wake up!
What's up? Who wants it? Oh, it's you, Miss Bossy. Oh, I was having such a nice dream, too. Behind Miss Bossy, the wizard, who had been following her, said something too, under his breath. A wizardy word he'd learned from page 304. And do you know what happened? Suddenly, as if by magic, which is true, there appeared on Miss Bossy's feet a pair of boots. Miss Bossy looked down in alarm. They were magic boots, and being magic boots, they could speak to each other. Hello, left. Yeah, hello, right. Ready when you are. Right. And they set off. Left. Right. Left. Right. Left.
Stop
Right.
it.
Left.
Stop that.
Right.
No,
Left.
no, look here.
Faster and faster, marching poor little Miss Bossy along. Little Miss Bossy couldn't do a thing about it. Oh, well done, wizard. The wizard winked a wizardy wink. Those boots marched little Miss Bossy for 5 miles. She was exhausted. Ready, left. Ready. A shudder. And they came to a halt. Along came the wizard. Ah, yes, those are only for people who are too bossy.
Yes, frightfully boring, thank you. Make them go away at once.
She said angrily, and stamped her foot. Well, at least, she tried to stamp her foot, but the boot wouldn't. We're out of stamps. We're right out of stamps. The left giggled. Yeah, that's right, we're out of stamps.
You will do as I say. Stop marching around.
Ready when you are. Right away. Quick! March! Left! Right! Left! Right! Left! Right! Left! Right! 10 miles they marched, Miss Bossy. 10 miles. They marched back to the wizard.
Make these stupid boots go away.
Yes, well, only if you say the magic word. That's better. And he said the wizardy word again, under his breath, from page 304. And the boots disappeared as if by magic. Now then, stop being bossy, or you know what will happen. Miss Bossy was just about to say something when she stopped, looked down at her feet, and then she nodded. Very well, smiled the wizard. Now, remember what I said. And he disappeared. And do you know something? From then on, until now off, little Miss Bossy was a changed person. Not bossy at all. And you know why, don't you? You know what she's afraid of? Bossy boots. Left, right, 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 left, right.
She's blunt.
He's fat, they're late and naughty. He's twinkle.
She's troublesome.
Sunshine. We're happy, tiny, neat.
I'm silly.
He's happy. She's little Miss Sunshine.
I'm fussy. I'm greedy.
I'm
Julie.
It's magic.
I'm me.
Bossy.
Daydream.
Scatterbrain.
Chatterbox.
Splendid impossible team, all friends together, the little Miss and Mr. Men, all friends together, round and round we go, back to back and side by side and on with the show.
Goodbye, goodbye, it won't be long till we meet again. And so we say, so long, goodbye, till we meet again.
Sometimes in sunshine, sometimes in style, sometimes with no time or just with a smile. Up to her eyes in surprises and tricks, no disguising. She's a little handful of trouble, a bundle of fun. Glad you could make it, so glad you could come. Little Miss, we're waiting for you. Ready, steady, how do you do?
Little Miss Helpful was one of those people who love to help other people.
Nice day for helping someone.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, for instance, like the time when one of Mr. Tall's shoelaces came undone. Now, if you're as tall as Mr. Tall, tying your shoelaces isn't the easiest thing in the world, as you can imagine,
I say, let me help.
said Little Miss Helpful, rushing up to where Mr. Tall stood looking down at his shoelaces. But somehow, she managed to tie Mr. Tall's shoes together. Oh! And he fell over. And if you're as tall as Mr. Tall, falling over hurts. Oh, my poor head!
Oh dear, poor old chap. Let me help.
Little Miss Helpful tried unsuccessfully to lift Mr. Tall upright.
Come along, Upsy-daisy. Oh, if only you weren't so tall.
Little Miss Helpful puffed and struggled, and then
Just a minute.
she had an idea.
Don't go away. Be back soon.
And off she went to find the wizard. Well, he wasn't home, but looking through the window, she could see his book of spells on the table. She crept into the house and turned over the pages until she found the spells she was looking for.
Tall be small when I call small. Small be tall when I call tall. I think I can remember that.
And she hurried back to poor Mr. Tall. Looking up at him and waving the wizard's wand, she cried,
Tall be small when I call small.
"Oh dear." Mr. Tall suddenly shrank in front of her eyes.
It worked. It worked. I say, the spells worked.
Mr. Tall found it easy to get to his feet again. "Thank you. Now, would you make me tall again, please?" squeaked Mr. Tall. But as she was trying to remember the other half of the spell, who should come along but Mr. Small?
Mr. Small, meet Mr. Tall.
Said Miss Helpful, introducing them both. "Tall, my foot. He's as small as I am."
Oh dear. Now, hang on a sec. What was it? Tall be small and small be tall. No. Hold on. Okay, chaps. Tall be small and all be all. No. Hold on a sec. One moment. Small be tall and... No. Small be tall when I call small.
Yes, well, now you know what I mean about people like Miss Helpful. For instance, last year, Mr. Happy woke up feeling not very well. The doctor had to be called to Mr. Happy's house, which is on a hill by a lake. "Oh, dear," said the doctor when he saw Mr. Happy. "Looks like measles." Mr. Happy's face fell. "Now, look here, you're going to stay tucked up nice and warm in bed and get lots of rest, and take this medicine 3 times a day." The doctor left the cottage, and Mr. Happy settled down to sleep. He'd just fallen asleep when there was a loud knock at his front door. "Oh, dear, oh, dear," groaned Mr. Happy, and staggered off to open the door.
Hello there. I've come to help.
"Oh, but look..."
But nothing. Off to bed with you while I get on with everything.
Miss Helpful looked round the cottage.
This place needs a good clean.
Mr. Happy had just dropped off to sleep again when Miss Helpful poked her head round his bedroom door.
I say, got a scrubbing brush?
Oh, dear. Well, poor Mr. Happy. He had to get up and show her where it was, and then he went back to bed to try and sleep. Downstairs, little Miss Helpful stepped back to admire the kitchen floor she'd just scrubbed and tripped on the soap and fell head over heels and got her head stuck in the bucket. And because she couldn't see where she was going, she walked into a shelf full of saucepans, which fell all over the floor with a terrible clatter. And because she couldn't see where she was going, little Miss Helpful stepped into one of the saucepans and got it stuck on her foot. And because she had to hop, she fell over against the refrigerator door, which fell open, and everything inside fell out all over little Miss Helpful.
Oh, dear.
Poor Mr. Happy awoke with a jump at the terrible commotion. He groaned, got out of bed, and went to the kitchen and opened the door.
Oh, I just need to get some sleep.
He couldn't believe his eyes. There in the middle of a pile of broken eggs, and a scrubbing brush, and rolling saucepans, and a lot of water, spilt milk, squashed butter, and a piece of soap, sat little Miss Helpful, with a bucket on her head, and a saucepan on her foot.
Help! I say help! I can't see where I'm going anymore.
Mr. Happy seized the bucket and pulled as hard as ever he could, and pulled and pulled. The bucket came off the top of little Miss Helpful's head like a cork out of a bottle, and Mr. Happy shot backwards like a bullet from a gun. He went flying through the kitchen door. He shot across the garden and straight through his garden hedge. He rolled down the hilly field behind his garden, faster and faster, and then he finished up in the lake with a bucket on his head. And a little figure with a saucepan on one foot came half running, half hopping out of Mr. Happy's house and down towards the lake.
I say, let me help! Ahoy there!
She's blunt.
He's fun. They're late and naughty.
She's trouble.
And shy. We're helpful, tiny, neat.
I'm silly.
She's happy. She's little Miss Sunshine.
I'm fussy and greedy.
And royal.
I'm Julie.
It's magic.
I'm me.
Bossy.
Daydream.
Scatterbrain.
Chatterbox.
Splendid impossible team, all friends together, the little Miss and Mr. Men, all friends together, round and round we go, back to back and side by side and on with the show.
Goodbye, goodbye. It won't be long till we meet again. And so we say so long. Goodbye till we meet again.
smile. Up to her eyes in surprises and tricks. No disguising, she's a little handful of trouble, a bundle of fun. Glad you could make it, so glad you could come. Little Miss, we're waiting for you. Ready, steady, how do you do?
One Friday evening, the telephone rang in Early Bird Cottage. Little Miss Late picked it up.
Hi, Miss Late speaking.
Hello, Mr. Silly here. I've been given some tickets for a disco tomorrow night. Now, would you like to come?
Oh, yeah, great. What a wonderful idea.
Oh, righty-ho. I'll meet you at 7 o'clock outside the disco.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
And she put the phone down. Saturday arrived, and Mr. Silly waited outside the disco. He waited, and waited, and waited some more. Poor Mr. Silly went home. Next day, Mr. Silly went to see Miss Late. After a while, she opened the door.
Hi, Mr. Silly. I thought we were going to meet outside the disco.
Oh dear. Late for this, late for that. Miss Late was late for everything. For instance, last year, do you know when she celebrated Christmas Day? January the 25th. 1 month late.
Hi, happy Christmas. Oh, sorry.
For example, do you know when she did her spring cleaning at Early Bird Cottage? In the summer. 3 months late.
Hi, happy Easter. Oh, sorry.
For instance, do you know when she went on a summer holiday last year? In winter. In December. In the snow. 6 months late.
Hi, wish you were here. Sorry.
Just along the road, almost next door, was Two Pin Cottage, where a friend of hers lived, Little Miss Neat. Little Miss Neat had decided that afternoon to go for a walk. As she came to Early Bird Cottage, she noticed Miss Late in her garden, up to her ears in long grass. She called over the fence to her.
Hello, what are you doing? I thought I cut the grass.
Miss Neat looked over the hedge.
I think that you should have thought about that months ago. I tell you what, let's go shopping together tomorrow. Oh, great idea. I'll meet you in town on the corner of Main Street tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock. Yeah, great, I'll be there.
The following afternoon, Little Miss Neat stood on the corner of Main Street. It was 2 o'clock, and she was waiting for Miss Late. And she waited, and waited, and waited some more. Mr. Topsy-Turvy walked past, backwards, of course. Afternoon good. Finally, Miss Late arrived.
Hi, I'm a bit late, I'm afraid. A bit late? It's 6 o'clock and all the shops are shut. Sorry.
And that's what happened all the time. It happened when Miss Late decided to take a job. Her first job was in a bank, but the trouble was, by the time she arrived for work,
Hi.
the bank had closed.
Sorry.
And that was the end of her first job. Her second job was working as a waitress in a restaurant. Mr. Greedy was in for lunch, and he glanced at the menu.
Oh, good. Yes, I'll have everything twice with chips.
He was still waiting to be served at 7 o'clock that evening. So he went home,
Sorry.
and that was the end of her second job. Her third job was working as a secretary for Mr. Uppity.
I'd like these letters typed before I go home this evening.
It was 4 o'clock in the morning when Miss Late said,
Finished.
Yes, you certainly have.
Sorry.
and that was the end of her third job. But now, at last, Miss Late has managed to find herself the perfect job. Now she works for Mr. Lazy, cleaning his house and cooking his meals. And little Miss Late, being little Miss Late, is always late for work. So she doesn't arrive for work in the morning. She arrives as Mr. Lazy gets up.
Good afternoon, Miss... Oh, sorry, Miss Late.
Hi.
And Mr. Lazy, being Mr. Lazy, doesn't have breakfast in the morning like you or I do. He has breakfast in the evening.
Great.
So you see, it all works very well. Very well indeed.
Mr. Lacy. Breakfast.
She's blunt.
They're late and naughty.
She's trouble.
We're helpful, tiny,
Neat.
I'm silly.
She's little Miss Sunshine.
I'm fuzzy. I'm greedy.
I'm truly.
It's magic.
I'm mean.
Bossy.
Dream.
Category.
Get the basket.
Splendid impossible team, all friends together, the little Miss and Mr. Men, all friends together, round and round we go, back to back and side by side and on with the show.
Goodbye, goodbye. It won't be long till we meet again. And so we say so long. Goodbye till we meet again.
Sometimes in sunshine, sometimes in style, sometimes with no time or just with a smile. Up to her eyes in surprises and tricks, no disguising. She's a little handful of trouble, a bundle of fun. Glad you could make it, so glad you could come. Little Miss, we're waiting for you. Ready, steady, how do you do?
Early one morning in summer, little Miss Magic awoke in the bedroom of Abracadabra Cottage, which was where she lived. She yawned a yawn and got out of bed. She went to the bathroom to clean her teeth.
Squeeze.
She said to the tube of toothpaste. And guess what? The tube of toothpaste jumped up and squeezed itself onto Little Miss Magic's toothbrush. Honestly, Little Miss Magic isn't called Little Miss Magic for nothing. When she tells something to do something, it does it. She went downstairs to the kitchen.
Boil.
She said to the kettle, and it did.
Toast.
She said to the toaster.
Spread.
She said to the knife, and the knife jumped up and spread some butter onto the toast.
Pour.
She said to the coffee pot, don't you wish you could make things do things like that? She was enjoying a second cup of coffee when there was a knock at the door.
Open.
She said to the door. And it did. There stood Mr. Happy, looking exactly the opposite.
Oh, you don't look your usual self. What's the matter?
Everything.
Come in and tell me all about it. Would you like a cup of coffee?
Yes, please,
Pour.
she said to the coffee pot.
Sugar?
2, please.
Lumps. Jump.
2 lumps jumped out of the sugar bowl and plopped into the cup.
Stir.
And a spoon stirred Mr. Happy's coffee.
No, what is it?
Well, it's Mr. Tickle. he's become absolutely impossible.
What do you mean?
Well, he used to go around tickling people every now and then. But now he's going around tickling people all the time. He sighed. Little Miss Magic looked at him.
It can't be that bad. Cheer up.
And of course he did.
Come on, we'll go and see Mr. Tickle together. Open.
She said to the door.
After you.
And off they set from Abracadabra Cottage. Mr. Tickle was in full cry. What a Monday morning he was having. He tickled Mr. Mean until he moaned. He tickled Mr. Greedy until he groaned. He tickled Little Miss Sunshine until she shivered. He tickled Mr. Quiet until he quivered. He tickled Little Miss Plump until she pleaded, and Little Miss Shy until she sobbed. Not to mention the postman, a policeman, the doctor, 3 dogs, 2 cats, and a worm. Ha ha! Cried Mr. Tickle as he spied Little Miss Magic and Mr. Happy. Anyone for tickles? And he rushed up to them, reaching out those extraordinarily long arms of his, with those particularly ticklish fingers on the ends of them. Little Miss Magic looked at Mr. Happy.
I see what you mean.
And winked. She pointed at Mr. Tickle's extraordinarily long right arm.
Shrink.
She said, and then she pointed to Mr. Tickle's extraordinarily long left arm.
Shrink.
And as you remember, when Little Miss Magic tells something to do something, it does it. Mr. Tickle's arms were suddenly not extraordinarily long. They were extraordinarily ordinary. That's not fair! You've spoiled my fun! Well, it might have been fun for you, remarked Mr. Happy, but it wasn't much fun for anybody else.
Come and see me tomorrow.
Said Little Miss Magic to Mr. Tickle.
There.
She said to Mr. Happy.
Happy now?
And Mr. Happy smiled that famous smile of his. Oh, I'll say. Come on, I'll buy you an ice cream. And off they went to find an ice cream van.
Ding dong.
Said Miss Magic. 2 raspberry ripples, said Mr. Happy, laughing. On Tuesday, Mr. Tickle went round to Abracadabra Cottage. He knocked at the door,
Open.
and of course the door opened by itself.
Oh, hello, Mr. Tickle. Come in. I expect you'd like me to make your arms long again.
Oh, yes, please.
Very well.
Mr. Tickle's face lit up.
On one condition.
Oh. His face fell.
You're only allowed 1 tickle a day.
1 tickle a day? Well, that's not much.
Promise?
Mr. Tickle sighed. Oh, promise.
Grow.
And both Mr. Tickle's arms grew back to their original long length.
Now don't forget, 1 tickle a day, or else.
Oh. Mr. Tickle went out through the door.
Goodbye.
She said to him.
Shut.
She said, and of course it did. Mr. Tickle stood outside Little Miss Magic's cottage. Oh, well, he thought, 1 tickle a day is better than no tickles a day. It was then that he saw one of the downstairs windows of Abracadabra Cottage was open. 1 tickle a day, he thought, and a small smile came to his face. 1 tickle a day. And on that Tuesday morning, as one of those extraordinarily long arms reached in through the open window of Abracadabra Cottage, the small smile on the face of Mr. Tickle turned into a giant grin. 1 tickle a day!
She's blunt.
He's fat, they're late and naughty. Tickle.
She's troubles.
Sunshine. We're helpful, tiny, neat.
I'm silly.
Happy. She's little Miss Sunshine.
I'm fuzzy. I'm greedy.
And you're not royal.
I'm jolly.
It's magic.
I'm mean.
Bossy.
Extreme.
Scatterbrain.
Get the basket.
Splendid impossible team, all friends together, the little Miss and Mr. Men, all friends together, round and round we go, back to back and side by side and on
Sometimes with no time or just with a smile. Up to her eyes in surprises and tricks. No disguising, she's a little handful of trouble, a bundle of fun. Glad you could make it, so glad you could come. Little Miss, we're waiting for you. Ready, steady, how do you do?
Are you ever naughty? Sometimes, I bet. Well, little Miss Naughty was naughty all the time. She woke one Sunday morning and looked out of the window.
Looks like a nice day for being naughty.
That Sunday, Mr. Uppity was out for his morning stroll.
I'm going to knock his hat off. Just you watch.
From behind a wall, Miss Naughty knocked Mr. Uppity's hat off his head with a walking stick. My hat! Mr. Greedy had put a turkey in the oven for lunch. A rather large turkey.
Oh, don't I fancy that turkey? I'm going to pinch it.
Oh, who's that at the door just when I'm about to eat my delicious lunch? Hello? Oh, no! Poor Mr. Greedy. A sausage isn't much of a lunch when you've been looking forward to a whole turkey, is it? And do you know what she did that evening? She went to an expensive restaurant and ordered all the most expensive food on the menu.
Yes, I'll have oysters, caviar, fresh salmon, T-bone steak, well done, 2 plates of chips, lemon meringue pie, and your best bottle of lemonade.
And do you know what she did next? She sent the bill to Mr. Mean. Naughty girl. What a shock. The next day, she met Mr. Worry.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh, I see. What is the problem then?
Well, it looks to me as if you've got measles. Your face is covered in spots.
Oh, dear. He worried off to see Dr. Makewell. Dr. Makewell listened to Mr. Worry's tale and took a mirror from his drawer. Oh, there's no spots. What a thing to say to me when it wasn't true.
Oh, what a lovely day, and it ain't even dinner time yet.
The Mr. Men decided to hold a meeting.
Something has to be done.
Announced Mr. Uppity, showing them his bent hat. Mr. Greedy thought. Yes. He cleared his throat and spoke. I've no idea. Well, I have, piped up Mr. Worry. I know what that naughty little girl needs, and I know who can do it.
Really? Who?
What?
Oh, that'd be telling, wouldn't it?
Chuckled Mr. Worry, and went off to see a friend of his. Someone who could do impossible things, like making himself invisible. That afternoon, Mr. Nosy was asleep under a tree. Little Miss Naughty crept towards him with a pot of paint in one hand and a paintbrush in the other, and a rather large grin on her face.
I'm going to paint the end of his nose red.
But just as she was about to do this dreadful deed, something happened. The brush jumped out of her hand, dipped itself into the pot of red paint, and began to chase little Miss Naughty down the road.
Get off! Buzz off! Get off!
Somebody invisible was holding the brush and pot. I wonder who. Mr. Jelly was waiting for a bus. All alone when, behind his back, little Miss Naughty crept up quietly. She had a balloon in one hand and a pin in the other. Oh, she couldn't do that to poor, nervous Mr. Jelly, could she? Oh, yes, she could.
He went half jump when his balloon goes pop.
But just as she was about to make the balloon go pop, something happened. The balloon began to grow larger and larger as somebody invisible blew more air into it. Miss Naughty began to lift off the ground.
Help! Help! Help!
She sailed away, up and over the trees, on the balloon, until a bird pecked it. Poor Miss Naughty. She fell into the duck pond. Mr. Lazy was in bed, fast asleep. Outside his house, little Miss Naughty stood by the front door. She raised her hand. Oh, she couldn't be so naughty as to knock on the door and wake up poor Mr. Lazy. Not at 6 o'clock in the morning. She couldn't. Oh, yes, she could.
Then I'll make him angry waking him up this early.
But just before she did, guess what? That naughty girl felt someone who was invisible tweak her nose. Hard.
Ouch!
And then her nose was tweaked again.
Ouch! Ow! Get off! No! It's not fair!
And little Miss Naughty ran home holding her nose. And after that, she was cured. No naughtiness at all. Mr. Worry went round to thank his invisible friend. Hello, Mr. Impossible, he said. Thank you for helping to cure poor little Miss Naughty. My pleasure, laughed Mr. Impossible. But it did take a week. Yes, indeed. And a tweak, he said.
She's plump.
He's fat, they're late, and naughty, and tickle.
She's trouble.
Sunshine. We're helpful, timing.
Neat.
I'm silly.
She's happy.
She's little Miss Sunshine.
I'm fuzzy. I'm greedy.
And look who I am.
I'm Julie.
It's magic.
I'm me.
Bossy.
Dream.
Scatterbrain.
Get the bus.
Splendid, impossible,